I'm going to move the branches apart a little further so they will be conducive for commenting. And I'll start by adding some group comments. So if I have a look in the comments, I'll just type in comment as a filter. I'll pull in a couple of group comments. So here we have state 1, and here we have state 0. So I'm actually just going to size it a little better here. So this represents state 0, generate trails and control length and size of strand. And I'll actually copy-paste that and use it down here in my other group comment. Okay, so at least that helps me look at it and visualize it a little easier. And here are my forces, so I'll just bring in my forces comment. I need to add in wind. I can't forget to do that. So you can even give yourself little reminders, which is kind of cool. We don't really need to comment. These are the strand length attributes that we've got. And here's our bouncing group of compounds. And deleting particles in state ID 0. And then the resulting spawn. So I'll grab a group comment, and we'll call this spawn on collide with Earth, or with ground. Set the age limit of new particles. Actually, more important than that is set state ID to 1 and set a new age limit. Color and segment shape. Okay, so that all looks pretty good. It's a little bit easier to look at the graph. Let's just get rid of that node there. So we have our create strand. So here's our initialize values. So we'll call this init extra values, such as strands. And age limit. If I wanted to add a little wind into this scene, I think I would do so by bringing in a wind control object. We could even bring in a simple vector node as well, but a wind is a little more interactive. We'll bring in a wind icon, which gives us a wind icon and a vector. The nice thing is that wind has not only a vector, but a magnitude, a velocity as well, and a flow viscosity, kind of a drag effect. And I'm going to select that wind, press F3, and I'm going to drag it into the graph and add it to my forces section. So I'll plug the vector output, the direction of the wind, into the second forces input. And I guess I don't need to add wind anymore. And I'll double click on the wind get data node, pin it down so I can have a look at how it works. So the way the wind works right now is if we add a little wind to the scene, our particles are also going to inherit the intensity of the wind. So that's kind of nice as well too. You can also restrict the particles by reducing the amount of flow viscosity. If we increase their flow viscosity, these particles can really just take off. But if we reduce the flow viscosity, they can't move nearly as far, or they can't deviate as far off course. It takes a much stronger wind velocity to move those particles. So I'm going to reduce that a little more, Just get it so that the particles aren't moving too far. We could also go in here and reduce the age limit on these spawned particles. So if I was to zoom back out to the spawn on collision, the age limit of these particles is 0.7 to 1.1. If I reduce that to say 0.5 to 0.8, we would get a much shorter particle stream as well. As an alternative, if you're finding the wind problematic, we could also go in and use a simple vector direction. So if I move back over to my forces category, I can disconnect the wind, take the resulting force vector, which is 0, 0, 0, and if I want to give it a small directional push, you can see we can kind of get the same effect. It's actually a little more effective, I find, to use the vector force in this case. We could even use something like a null and scale up the axis of the null just to make it more interactive. Cool, so maybe I'll just go with that for now. It's a little bit easier, so we don't even really need the wind icon. But it is an option if you need it. So I'll select and delete that wind icon. So maybe to make it a little more obvious, I'll go and bring in a 3D vector constant. And I'll initialize it with a value of 0.8. So we're getting that good, wholesome rain coming down there. Okay, so things are looking pretty good. I think we can continue on.